And Chazda Hashem, another episode, and may we hopefully share some pearls of wisdom to hopefully up our day. Be'ezras Hashem is Baruch.
Amazing, yes, and thank you once again for tuning in, whether you're tuning in live at work, at your desk, with your donut, your coffee, on your way to work, on your way back from work, wishing that you were listening to this before you got to work. It's with deep appreciation that we have for people like you that don't just want to go through the daily grind, but want to be able to get chizuk, bring avodas Hashem into the workplace. And it's been a lot of fun, having these Q&As because, as we mentioned in the past, and if you're wondering what that means, don't worry, I'll say it again, is that it's through the past couple of years, through the chabur that we've run, amazing Oivdei Hashem, professionals in all backgrounds that really get together to excavate topics within Parnassa, but not just to understand them, but to really be able to work with them and totally change the way they experience the workday. There have been amazing questions that have come to the forefront, and in this platform, it's just been a lot of fun to be able to share some of the amazing dilemmas, questions that are coming up, and give tools so that you will be able to plug it into your workday. So what do we have for today? Today's question is definitely a big topic in the current chabur that we're going through, work-life balance. Here it is. How can I get more done with less time? How can I get more done with less time? It's an amazing question. If you could just click your fingers and magically be able to get so much done. And it's a real question. And I think that so many people are thinking about this, especially because in the times that we live in, the nature of the way that life is, and if you're at a stage of life where you're not just learning Torah, you're not just working, but you also have a family, you also have responsibilities, you also have a community, you also have friends, you also have siblings, you also have parents, you also have side projects that you're trying to launch. What else do people do? They also try to take care of themselves. And as we're speaking about, right now in our chabur, trying to also have downtime and vacation. That's a lot of things. That's a lot of things to get done. And it seems that with all of our technological advances, still it seems there's only 24 hours in a day. So how can we get more done? Because we need to get a lot of things done. At the same time, we want to get it done in less time so that perhaps we can achieve more. So I think what we can suggest here today in this forum is three strategies that each one of you can think about and Be'ezras Hashem apply. So the first one we'll open up with is three letters, GPS. Right? GPS is a formula that we've been excavating and working with in depth within our chabura, goals, priorities, and scheduling. Which means when we think about this question of how to get more done, a good Jewish question always answers with another question. Maybe you shouldn't be getting more done, right? Perhaps you're trying to chew off too much, right? We speak about this amazing insight that Chazal have, tafasta meruba lo tafasta. A person tries to grab on too much, so then he's not going to grab anything at all. So you might be thinking, okay, but you don't know my life. Well, it's very nice. Of course, I would love to take this off and take this off and take this off, but there's so many things that are just screaming at me for my attention and are urgent and need to get done. So GPS is a formula, goals, priorities, and scheduling, right, which really challenges you, and will challenge you right now, right, that when you think about all this more you need to get done, right, to be considering for all these different goals, all the different areas that I have in my life. Forget about the details right now. Your to-do list that you keep on, flipping over every single day and it never seems to be ending. Right? What are the goals that you generally have for the different roles that you're in? So if it's work, if it's finances, if it's health, if it's marriage, if it's parenting, if it's learning, right? What are your goals? And knowing what our goals are, we speak about in the chabur, right? That you should be able to pull someone off on the street and say, tell me what your goals are. And everyone should have an answer. Do you have an answer? If you don't have an answer, so that means that there isn't really anyone that's navigating the ship. And we should be very suspicious that more that we need to get done with less time, perhaps maybe we don't really need to be doing all that more. We always want to know what our goals are, priorities in any given week, month, 3-month period in your life. What really needs to be focused on? perhaps we can't get all of the things really focused on right now, which is okay as long as we have goals. We don't get back later to it. And then scheduling, right, is that taking those goals of priorities and then having a schedule which is realistic, a schedule which is practical, a schedule that reflects the way that you function. So if you have your GPS in place, that's strategy number one on how you can see you can get more of what you want to get done in an effective way.
It's a big topic, and there's a lot of dimensions to this topic.
Yeah, we spent a long time speaking about it, and months really helping people to excavate it. But I think just knowing that code, knowing that code for yourself, GPS is something very helpful. The second strategy I wanted to speak about is focus, right, which is something often taken for granted.
Focus and having the ability to remain focused, having the ability to be present and to know what you're doing when. And it's interesting, I was speaking to somebody this morning who's got ADHD. It's not easy. I try to be very focused. I get a lot done during the day because of my focus. It's like rapid, do. But this union of being present and focused is something incredibly important. And in context of GPS, as you said, when you know what you're doing and you have that schedule and you have your goals, it just helps prioritize. It gives you the ability to be present in the moment and to prioritize.
And I think that element of being present, there's things that we need to get done on our own, and there are things that we need to get done with people. So when it comes to things that we need to do on our own, so you have your list, you're sitting in front of your computer, right, in front of your phone, however you work, and those tasks that you need to do, right? I think that we've all experienced the difference between, having 45 minutes and being really focused and then being able to knock off 10 things, right? Or if we're distracted either by external things, interruptions, or internal thoughts, emotions, things that are on our mind, conversations that we had yesterday, things that we're bringing from work into home or home into work, suddenly we're not going to be so productive in what we're doing. But there's a second level of I think with what you're mentioning, Rav Gerzi, which is so important when it comes to other people. I remember hearing a story. I don't remember which tzaddik it was. It might have been with Ari Levine. So with many of these stories, you can pick your tzaddik because it probably happened with a few. And someone was speaking about the fact that they made a simcha. There was like a certain chasana, and that if you've ever had to fit in going to chasanas, or going to weddings, going to simchas in a busy day, right? So it would be nice to be able to stay for a long time, but often we can only pop in for a few minutes. So this person, I think it was the Baal Simcha, was reflecting how throughout the night of this Simcha, there were people that came and stayed for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. Some people stayed for the whole Simcha. And then there was this tzaddik, perhaps it was Rav Levine, that he came for, I think, 5 minutes. 5 minutes. But because in those 5 minutes, he was so present in those 5 minutes, the Baal Simcha felt that the impact that this tzaddik's presence made by just within those 5 minutes was so much more than the 30, 40, 1 hour, 2 hours that was spent with these other people that weren't necessarily there. So plugging this into our own, how do we get more done in less time, right? So one of the things that many of us have on our list to do is quality, having time with our spouse, having time with a child. And we may feel like, there's, Baruch Hashem, 5 kids, 4 kids, 3 kids, and, and this, all these people that I need to have conversations with and spend time with, right? So the question is that if I only had more time, I would get more done. And what are we hearing now?
We're hearing the fact, I think there's an akuda of, I don't know, I've heard opposite thoughts, which I think are okay. Question of sacrificing, which is prioritizing. There's always going to be a prioritization over time because we don't have all the time in the world, so to speak. So there's a prioritizing, which means you're going to sacrifice. And I think for a lot of people, there's FOMO. So they're still in their minds about the last thing that they're doing because they're not experiencing that presence. Rav Levine if it is, I don't know. I remember the story. I don't remember the tzaddik. But when, for example, you are present and you can hold change and transitioning, and your internal world can be in sync with that which is going on, and you could be present, you're only always going to get a certain amount of done, and you're always only, it's interesting because this nakuda of sacrificing, I remember, and again, I'm not saying I agree or disagree with it, I don't know, it's a conversation, but there is always something that's going to be sacrificed, and it hurts. And sometimes if you're going to start a business, you will sacrifice your family and children. If you are going to do this, something else is going to come at its expense. If you're davening, if you're learning Torah, some people, they daven a 3-hour shacharis. It's less important for me to daven a 3-hour shacharis, and it's more important to me to sit with the next person. I think we're always sacrificing. I remember a friend of mine said, could you imagine Olam Haba, 3-hour shacharis? No, that would be Gehenna for me. It's like I've got other things to do, and the davening, for example, will be secondary than having all of the other things that I need done. So there's always I've got a certain amount of time, I've got all of these things that I want to do, and how am I going to get it done? And the realization, if I am doing this, I'm not doing this. And if I'm not doing that, I'm hopefully doing this. And if I am doing that, I'm not doing that. So psychologically, it hurts. It's like, maybe I should be davening a 3-hour shacharis, or maybe I should be learning for another 45 minutes. And I remember I discussed this with the Biala Rebbe, and the Biala Rebbe gave, we spoke about this before, but the Ropshitzer experienced this as well. The Ropshitzer was not into these long davenings and long learning sessions. The Ropshitzer had a lot to do, and he was very methodical. This is my learning, this is my davening. There are certain tzaddikim that they have a lot more space to do their avodas, and that's amazing. That's really, if that's that sort of person. I was always jealous of a friend of mine. He davened by Munis Yisrael, Rav Wolfson, and he would go into the Beis HaMedrash and he would sit there and learn for an hour, and then he would go and prepare himself mikveh and daven. I was like, wow. And my life is not like that. And at this point in it's never really been like that. That's the honest truth. I've got other things that are going on. So the question is, in my mind, am I feeling guilty and shame because of this? Or can I be present and hold what I'm doing? So there is, I think, this Indian of sacrifice. I've got somebody who works in Tel Aviv at a high-tech company. They work for, I think it's Google or whatever is in Tel Aviv. Facebook, one of these and he's a Yid who identifies in the Haredisha world, and he always asks me, maybe I should just quit my job, and one of the tzaddikim, he went to one of the tzaddikim, no, you can't quit your job, you have to be there, and you have to be present with it, you have to be present. So where is he? He's in his workspace, and he's thinking, maybe I should be learning more. Maybe, especially if somebody comes up to him and asks him a question about Yiddishkeit, maybe I should say, I can't speak right now, but I need to be learning. And the tzaddik said to him, no, somebody comes to you, you speak to them, you're shliach. So what's going on inside of you? What's going on inside of all your thinking? And having the ability to make that choice in the present moment by being present. I'm here, I'm now, I'm looking at the bigger picture, and right now, this is where I am, and right now I've got a Yid coming to speak to me. I have my Sidorim in the evening. I know I'm going to learn. I'm going to get my quota in on learning. This, so to speak, is not extra if I don't have anything to do. This is what I should be doing. When I go on the train, I'll carry on my learning. When I'm davening mincha, I've got my zman for mincha, and it's to be present, and it's to hold that space, and to be comfortable with the holding of that space.
Yeah, I think that beautifully intertwines the realm of the where the priorities, in the GPS hits the element of presence. And when you have that clarity, and that's why it's really the first step, when you have that clarity of knowing what my goals are, what my priorities are, and then making a choice to set your schedule that way, then your next step, it helps you to be able to then be present, because you're not being stuck in this thinking of maybe I should be doing something else. And when we are able to do that, we find that we're able to get more done, both, like we mentioned, within your own work, and especially when it comes to other people, and especially when it comes to other people. It's a fascinating. There's this amazing music video that I saw. It really speaks to me. It's a very, very deep idea. It's a song by Zusha. They put out a song a number of years ago called Haredi Mechavim, and the whole song is the whole entire song's message over there is about being present. The whole song is about being present. So what they are giving across in this video, if you haven't seen it, it's worth checking it out, is they're showing this little child that's going out to the park with his father. And the little child, 5-6 years old at that age, just, full of positive energy and playfulness and just looking to play. And as the father starts out holding the son of the hand, he sits himself down and then ends up on his device. And the child at first, he's playing, he's trying to get his father's attention. He's trying to get his father's attention, and he sees after trying and trying and trying that the father's just, on his device, and figured, okay, I'm taking my son to the park, and he'll play and I'll do my thing. At a certain point, the kid just turns his head and realizes there is not an address, and then he moves on. Okay, fascinating end of the video. We won't speak about it right now, but that really spoke to me because children know. Even they know. I have a child about 1.5 years, and I see he can't communicate much, but he'll come over and give me a little clap on my knee, when he sees that I'm not paying attention. And when we are present fully with the people that we're with, even if you only have 5 minutes to spend, if you're present in those 5 minutes, it's so much more powerful. You can get so much more achieved within your goals for your relationships, even within business relationships, when you're present with what you're doing. So that second strategy, a strategy about being focused, I think really ties into the third strategy. With this, we'll wrap up. Which is to know what distracts you. And what we did this amazing exercise in the Chabura, about people being real about how distractible are they, and what and how do people get distracted as we go throughout our days, and to realize, perhaps one understanding of Chazal, when Chazal said that, they don't want to be alive at the end of days, of the days that we're living through, is to realize that it requires such gevura, and inner strength for us to stay focused, because there's so many things that are pulling at our attention from every notification and every bing and every noise, and billions of dollars are invested by companies so that they can learn how to distract you.
We call it to be undistractable. Maybe we could share 2 avoiders.
Yeah, we'll wrap
Maybe
up with 2 avoiders.
One avoider is open loop and closed loop. And a good practice is just asking, what am I going to do now? What am I going to do now? So you ask yourself, what am I going to do now? And this is what I'm going to do. It's Das and Seichel. Das is I'm present. What am I going to do now? Then you do what you're going to do. And when you've completed what you've done, you wish yourself shkayach. You say, well done. Very odd, very, very odd, but very powerful. So again, open loop and closed loop. I ask the question, what am I going to do now? By being present, I'm present, take a breath. I'm here now, what am I going to do? I then do it, and when you finished what you've done, you thank yourself.
Amazing.
You thank yourself. Okay, that's good. I think that's good.
Okay, amazing. Thank you for tuning in. Looking forward to continuing the discussion next week at Chizuk at Work.
Chazda Hashem, Kol Tov, Kol Yeshuas.